let's have a look at what happens here in the draft. As once again, Lee Sin has been banned. Just here in the LCK, I'm pretty sure it's not officially a global ban just yet.
Yeah, just
but some funny business going on with this Q. We're just going to remove the blind man. Not going to see him in today's matches. So Zeri and Ash both taken away here as DRX wanting to make sure that Teddy and Pleta have the best time laning possible. And look, you can't fault them for that game plan.
No, certainly. And the Zeri that Aiming has been finding so much success on, I think, is a smart ban. It's not really meta to ban that on blue side here, but it is a very team-specific ban. The Ash, a strong one. Rumble is gone. Skarner, being no longer as relevant, does open up a lot on the red side here, so we'll see if they ban both the Corki and Tristana here. It's actually going to be banned by DRX. A very unusual blue side Tristana ban, especially considering the Corki was already gone.
Yeah, and it does show that they do value the Sejuani a little bit higher, but this does give D+ the opportunity to ban that one away if they would like to. Of course, getting Lucid onto something a little bit more attack-oriented makes a lot of sense, but it's one of the first times that we've seen a team go up against D+ and not try to ban out Lucid. It's a very strange situation as Rascal gets the crocodile respect. And you love to see it.
The Vi first pick, I think, is kind of a soft target there of Lucid as well. I mean,
they're like, oh no, we forgot the ban strategy.
And you know, Lucid definitely would have locked it up, I think, if it was given over. But now we can play the Sejuani here, and they could lock something in alongside. It doesn't necessarily have to be an AD mid. The Azir is still quite strong. We've seen that kind of be the go-to. Talia would be a great denial because Vi Talia is so powerful right now. But they're looking at the Kalista instead here for Aiming. And Teddy's found a lot of success on this pick too, so I do think this is a reasonable takeaway.
Yep, Aiming, just a big fan of this champion as well. We saw it work out quite well yesterday in Death's Hands at the same time. I would like the Talia lock-in here. I agree with you. I actually think that DRX have kind of set up their draft really nicely just because Talia isn't a flex anymore. You know, on this patch, she has been... they attempted to remove her from the jungle. Instead, the Sejuani will be the lock-in here and not wanting to give that one away, although there was no chance that it was going to be picked up because Vi is already there in the jungle. Interesting. So Gnar is the consideration here, and Rascal going to lock that one away alongside that Talia that we saw coming a mile away. And now what does Showmaker play into it? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the big question.
Oh yeah, Diana, of course.
I think he will probably play Azir. I don't think he'll be playing the Diana. He always hovers the Syndra, which I would love to see. The LeBlanc, very much suiting the composition here and can be quite strong into Vi. We'll see if that end up what he's going to play here. As struggling with words, I guess I'm still a little jet lagged.
Yeah, I've been word salading a fair bit, even when I was just at home talking to myself, and so that's it's always a bad thing. As the Renata is going to be locked in here. So Kalista, Renata, and Sejuani, a strong core here, not really giving away too much of what the full identity is going to be outside of the fact that they do have a lot of early laning pressure towards the bottom side of the map.
I love this Renata pick because Showmaker has such a massive champion pool, and it's just so wide open.
Oh, he's going to play Kassadin.
Push the Renata up, and then, you know, it's great into Vi, Talia as well. The Ezreal is a very strong pick, even though historically, you know, the Kalista just crushes the matchup. You wouldn't want to think about playing Ezreal with the Kalista face up like this, but Ezreal actually can kind of win these now and outranges the Kalista later on. They're going to take away the LeBlanc, so wanted to grab that one, but now you can't because you got the Renata, which again, I agree with the choice, but that's going to be the tax.
Yep, and it's Kellen's Renata as well. I mean, this guy has had some of the best Renata plays in the LCK over his career, so I do like them prioritizing that, especially like you say, Showmaker with the big champion pool. And another pick to come through as far as the Teddy bans, and Xayah has been one of his favorites. Xayah Rakan making a bit of a resurgence on this particular patch, as there is the Camille taken away from Kingin. Not going to be the answer into the Gnar this time around. And so where do we go? Is it going to be just Aatrox locked in now, and then you save counterpick for Showmaker and he plays something weird, like, I don't know, like Kassadin or the Zillion? I'm thinking for some reason. I don't know why. I
think that there's a lot of options here. Like, even Ziggs would be okay in this draft. Has a lot of scaling. GP.
Or just Gangplank. Just Gangplank is fine. Sometimes you just need a bit of Pirate. That's it's kind of what, yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay, bringing out the GP. It's been a while. We saw this hovered at EWC, but wasn't actually played. A lot of teams considered it. and has been a pretty good matchup into the Gnar in the past. A lot of additional burst damage, a lot of objective setup, and it's great defensively when you have that Renata as well. So much failsafe here for D+. When we get to those objectives later on. And the Ziggs is going to get locked here for Teddy, and they're going to play the Ziggs Leona. Such an incredibly powerful duo in the bottom lane. We'll be able to stand up to the Kalista decently well. Difficult to dive this composition with the Satchel Charge, with Leona there as well, and you have the Talia could join if there is going to be a play made there with Lucid's Sejuani down bottom side. And great follow-up to the engage here, pretty guaranteed. Now, Akali, I was going to say, look, it's a perfect Azir angle now. You've got the Gangplank, you've got the late game scaling. The Akali, a little bit riskier.
That is a Showmaker pick, though, and this is... I mean, I wouldn't want to play it into Talia. I'll tell you that much. That does not sound like a whole lot of fun. Akali does a lot of dashing around, and Talia does a whole lot of I don't want you to dash around. That's my analysis. What do you think, Wolf?
I think that is a pretty good take. The dashing around into the rocks is not ideal. Ziggs can also layer his bombs into your Shroud as well. So, you know, it isn't going to necessarily feel too fun to play this Akali, but if it gets out of control early, you start to get those big advantages. And it is going to be a skirmish-heavy game here that D+, or rather that DRX are playing. Then maybe if the Akali just gets so big that you just blow the Ziggs up really quickly. It's very squishy. But, you know, I would have rather seen the Azir. I think that's pretty clear based on what I've been leading into.
Yeah.
Would have given you some more safety into this dive composition, would have given you lane pressure, would have given you the ability to scale with this GP pick later on. The Akali is not necessarily not going to scale, but can feel relatively useless, especially into this composition if it falls behind. And it's a tough matchup into the Talia as well.
Yeah, we had, like, of course, we've been through a lot of metas with both Talia and Akali in them. We have seen Akali's run away with the matchup before. If they do manage to, like, hit that level 6, find the windows, play when the rocks are down, things like that, there are certainly ways to play around it. And with Sejuani, you get a lot of power because of the melee nature of being Akali. You proc that permafrost a lot. So in the 2v2 in mid and in top lane, they're going to be very, very dangerous. We'll just have to see where Lucid's going to get to on the map. Let's jump into the Rift for game 1. All right, D+ Gear fans out in force, as I haven't seen that Akali skin in a very long time.
Let's see which one it was. Which one is it?
It's the Freezy one, right? Or is that, no, that's just the DRX one.
It's the DRX one, yeah.
And the Freezy skin that I was thinking about is actually an Aurelia skin, so I'm just losing my mind. My brain is just broken.
I thought, you know, an extra day. I did the desk yesterday. We were a little bit unhinged.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, you know, you're on camera less, right? You're speaking less. And you have two people talking with you over there. But, you know, I made it through. I thought, okay, well, I got through the tough day. Well, this is going to be fine. But, you know, it's a little rocky.
Yeah, it's a bit rocky, isn't it? And look, I think Valdez had a rough one, right? Because he, like, was basically just back and then had to play by play. But he did have well-rested Chronicler.
True.
So maybe us, no one can save us. Because
the toughest part for Valdez was he had to sit next to me on a plane. 2 planes, actually.
No.
So he was...
Also, he just wasn't feeling very well in general.
Yeah.
So it's just a bit of a rough time. So glad you've got a bit of day off there, Valdez. I'm sure you're in chat or something like that.
Grasp, Gangplank with Jack of all trades. Demolish taken as well. So a lot of power in the sides if left alone. It's down here. That's going to whiff.
Yep. Teddy has played the right skin, though, so that is very, very important. Pool Party Ziggs is one of the greatest, and you know, if you've been playing League of Legends for a very long time, you probably got this skin for free as well, so there's no reason not to play it every single time you play Ziggs.
It's very on theme for the season.
Very true. It's quite warm.
Yeah. And, you know, it's nice to jump in the pool and cool off. This matchup, obviously the earlier levels of it, the Talia can kind of chip away and get some advantages there. And the rocks are the big key element. You know, you talked about it in draft. How you want to dash as Akali is going to be dependent on that cooldown and the placement of the Unraveled Earth. So, yeah, who's going to have to use that strategically in the lane. But it can be a tough matchup for Talia later on, just because the Akali is so mobile and she is so fragile. So, not going to want to be building you know, any items against the Akali. Also will weaken her power later on.
Yep, -1s in chat, by the way. Aiming, missing that cannon. So it's kind of, the bottom lane's kind of over. Just a bit of a shame there. Shout outs to Orcs for his DRX prediction for today. Maybe he just saw it in the stars that Aiming was going to miss one of the first cannons of the wave and have a really horrible game. As Yahoo and Showmaker here, you can see you play with your health bar quite a lot as the Akali in this matchup.
Yeah, doing a great job of it so far as Rascal's getting pushed in. Lucid's up here.
This is a big dive angle. Rascal down to 300 health, and that is a free demolish proc, and Rascal is zoned away from the wave.
Yeah, there was nothing subtle about this gank, was there?
Yeah.
It's like, you're walking away from the turret, actually. I'm just going to walk straight up to it. There are 2 people in your lane now.
And this was playoffs. I remember this game. Doran actually having a great one against Zeus almost a year ago in summer playoffs. This is the last time we saw Gangplank. He was really a mainstay for such a long time and hasn't really been seen all that much. As we can see, still works, still does what it says on the tin, and that is beats Gnar in lane. And he has definitely still doing it.
Certainly is. Showmaker playing with his health bar, like you said. Yahoo running low on mana, but does have a cookie in his inventory. He's got a Doran's ring, so he's just going to try to stick around as long as possible. We'll probably see teleports traded there. Keep our eyes on it. We keep looking at this top lane because Kingen has really put the pressure on here. Narbar set for Rascal. Just wants to get this big barrel. And we'll back away. And, you know, we've seen this matchup go both ways. We might even get the matchup stat. Like, I remember last time we saw it was almost dead even, the matchup between the two. We've seen so many people love to pick the GP into the Gnar, but it just has gone both ways. And see that Kingen had Lucid come over there, but Rascal dealt with the pressure well, backed off. Didn't have to flash or anything, didn't really lose any minions, even in CS, and now has the lane pushing back towards Kingen.
Things not gone too bad, to be perfectly honest. And with the fact that DRX has this composition that does work extraordinarily well as the game goes on, right? You can see like double semi-globals with the Weaver's Wall and the Mega Inferno Bomb. And if they ever are in a team fight, they can control space so beautifully. They have the Vi for the setup alongside the Leona. I mean, this composition, outside of the fact that it lacks physical damage a bit, which is not something we're used to saying all that much with the amount of double 80 carries we've been seeing, Rascal should be able to account for a fair bit of that alongside Sponge. So I do like what this composition does. I do think that D+, if they are able to start snowballing, it's going to roll real fast.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And we have 2 great upfront dragons here, which means a lesser soul, no doubt, but Infernal going to feel amazing for this comp and how it fights out in the early and the mid game. And Showmaker just picks up an Aether Wisp and a Dark Seal, so you know he thinks he's having that kind of game as well. As the Dark Seal is very cost efficient, but it also can stack up your advantages very quickly if you do end up taking some of those early fights. Aether Wisp going to just be helpful in general in terms of his mobility into this Taliyah matchup.
Well, so he's got some friends in lane right now. Just going to throw down that 5-point strike. Has made it to level 6 and is ahead in farm and will actually be even further ahead as he picks up this wave. Sponge going to be taking these grubs. Kellen does get full vision of it. Lucid possibly able to come on over here as Pleta set up. They do have a Gnar in the midst of it though. Gangplank a little bit later on the rotation, but does have Cannon Barrage up and available. Double grubs going to be taken by DRX. Lucid might be able to get one, but there's a seismic shove onto Kellen. He's going to have to flash to get out of the way. The Ignite now ticking down. That is going to be 3 grubs going over to DRX. Nicely played.
And some plate gold, it looked like going over to Aiming potentially if he is able to crash this one in. I don't know how much damage he's actually done to this first plate. Okay, looks like he's going to get it for sure here. It's at half right now. Zig's relatively far away. For D+'s composition, they have to really be leading the tempo. Otherwise, they're walking into so much engage. Kellen having to flash on that last fight, really problematic. You can see DRX have so much CC even without the Vi ultimate.
Wow.
Showmaker just does not care.
Yeah, Pleta is just not quite able to do anything. As I was a little bit worried that, you know, maybe it's, you know, 2v1 situation here, but Showmaker, relying on the fact that that Twilight Shroud exists, knows that he can just go invisible at a moment's notice. And he's playing around it very, very well. Currently, DRX, though, do lead the gold by just a wee bit. And the grub's certainly going to be helping out there. You can see in the jungle, Sponge has been able to farm up an extra few camps here over what Lucid's been able to get done. A pretty quiet early game for the young jungler from D+. Mega Inferno Bomb here for Teddy. It's going to help clear out the wave. As he puts down the water balloons. The skin is so good. It's actually just the greatest. Showmaker's going to stun himself momentarily. You did see that as the rocks come out, you can actually backflip and avoid taking damage if you're fast enough.
Yeah.
Showmaker not quite able to do so in that instance. Does show that Akali does have a few tools against the Taliyah.
Absolutely. The top side is really under full control by Rascal at the moment. It feels like, and I hate to say this because Rascal has been one of my favorite top laners, at his peak, especially at this time at Gen G.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's been like one of the first games where Rascal hasn't gotten solo killed, in the first few minutes, right? Like, he's actually having a great lane here into this GP, an unusual matchup we haven't really seen in the LCK in a really long time. It's a classic old one that he has a lot of experience with, but staying on form there, and I think that's really weakened Sejuani's power in this game. The fact that Nara's keeping up with this GP. He did, of course, make that one visit topside, but otherwise hasn't really been able to do much in this game. Was late on the jungle. Teddy, because he zigs now, is just going to be able to clear these waves. And the Kalista time where she's just pushing in hard and is unstoppable is kind of past now. And, the same to be true of what the top lane here was for Kingen, as we mentioned before, is a very quiet game. We're moving into this next dragon, and we'll see what happens here in terms of the fight, because I think if D+ just give this one up or just take it without actually getting any kills here, DRX may be fine with it, especially considering it's not going to be an Infernal Soul, it's not going to be a Hextech Soul, and they're just going to sit back and avoid that early skirmish. As the Ziggs is going to scale really well, but I think if you mess it up as D+, there's so many ways this can go wrong. As Sponge is coming up here right now, does have ult and flash.
Yep, Kingen does have oranges. The little hop does come in. You can actually oranges out of that one as Kingen's looking to keep himself alive. It does not work, and Sponge going to punch him in the back of the head and grab first blood.
Big win here for Sponge and DRX. A kill going over to this Vi. Just a minute before Dragon comes up here, Kingen does not have teleport. This is very awkward to D+. With, no cross map available, no counterplay, not going to be able to make anything happen. They get a scuttle in return as Rascal's going to take a plate on top of this. He wasn't the one to get the kill, but he's definitely getting a ton of value. As you've got to respect the engage range here of the Vi. Kingen just a little bit too far up, really relying on his oranges there, but still too much damage output, and he gets taken out just the same.
That is going to put a bit of a dent into D+ here, because if it's an even game state, that's already not great. But if they fall behind, it's going to feel really rough. Of course, they're going to be spiking a little bit later, right? They want to get the Trinity Force in for Kingen. They want to make sure that aiming is on one item that isn't opportunity. Unfortunately, he's a little bit behind. Aiming has struggled as far as building the right items in the past.
I wasn't going to mention it, but,
Yeah, and
I was going to leave that one to Ox, but you got it.
Yeah, maybe it was Ox's opportunity to talk about the opportunity.
Kingen is way up here with no flash.
Does he have more oranges? That is the question, as Pled is just going to walk towards him. Barrel is going to come on through here as Rascal's throwing the boomerangs down, and yeah, there's a Vi here once again. And Kingen is very, very much going to be dead. Well, it's going to take a while, and then he's going to be dead. There he goes. There he goes. He's dead now.
Teddy gets the kill, and that's a Ziggs in the side. Uncontested aiming will get some plate gold again here, bottom side. But they're going to get a lot of value up here with the Ziggs, and the whole turret will go down whenever Teddy decides to satchel it. There it is.
Yeah, barely even needed to be honest, because they were making swift work of that turret.
Yeah.
Aiming is trying to get through this bottom outer, but you can see with all of these grubs being picked up, DRX are just destroying these turrets one after the other. That should be an inner very, very early on. I mean,
yeah.
It is 5 grubs, and that's because they just haven't quite killed the 6th one. There it goes.
Showmaker, if he TPs, he's in trouble too, and they're just going to take this out. Another satchel, double turret, and this is what I was saying. If you're DRX, you're like, okay, you can have the dragon. I'm going to make something else happen. They get complete control of topside, 2 turrets, full plates on the first, of course, no plates on an inner, taken at 12 minutes in the game, and it's Ocean Soul. So you got 2 valuable single dragons as D+ here, which are definitely going to feel nice, but it's not the threat of a tough soul in this game that DRX is really worried about. If you were walking into a Hextech, even a Mountain would be better here. You'd feel a little bit rougher about it, but this composition doesn't have great engage, and they haven't been able to take skirmishes. As DRX are just playing the map better right now, just avoiding D+. The power that this comp has, and it's really, really high damage up at Rascal.
Yep, Rascal is in a bit of trouble here. There's the flash handshake. Big Gnar comes down as now Rascal gets underneath the turret, but the Fate's Call is going to get that knock up. Lucid looking to tank the turret for them, but it's not going to be the kill onto Rascal this time around, and aiming almost just dies as the turret does so much work. Oh man, D+ can't catch a break.
They really can't. I mean, they're just coming up empty here. And unfortunately, the Akali has just been invisible this game. Now getting pushed in by a Ziggs, backing off. Yehu's over here in a free lane. No one's contesting him. Teddy's like, I'm looking for another turret. Where's my third one? And you can see the gold lead here is ballooning with the Ziggs. Just like we saw at EWC, this pick is so popular in the LPL as well. And Teddy's getting a lot of value out of this pick while D+ have failed to punish. And plates still haven't fallen here. He's getting more and more money. He's not going to get into satchel range off this wave, but one or two more, if he's given some additional time here, that turret is just gone. And, you know, Lichbane's done for Showmaker. You had that opportunity. These are not big spikes, though, if you don't actually get to team fight. And they're behind the 8-ball in terms of the macro right now, as this is just a fantastic Gnar here. He has his Gnar bar at 89. See what he else says.
Just throws all three of them back.
죽긴 하겠다.
I think I'm going to die.
잘하는데?
But he does not.
죽었는데? 까비.
Has a bit of a giggle.
He was hoping that aiming was going to go down as well, but unfortunately for him, he did not.
I think still going to go in the pros column if they were, you know, making a list. Is all right. More satchel range to come through here as the Void Mites come on down. And that is almost the entire outer ring. But inner turret as well as two outers already taken here by DRX, and that is going to balloon that gold ever further, and just over 3,000.
If Rascal has a rough laning phase here, if he loses lane to the GP, then none of the plays they've made this game would be possible, but he's controlling it well. They get 6 grubs, so the Ziggs' power is even higher. No Tristana in this game, but the Ziggs could be the next best thing, arguably the better thing even at taking turrets out. They get Herald now as well, so there's just nothing that D+ has no opportunity to take a fight here. In the next 75 seconds, they could set up for a dragon fight, but I feel like the window of getting ahead with this Akali Kalista has been missed. It's definitely a game where if they win a big team fight now on this dragon, they could get right back into it. It's not over by any means, but they don't have great tools because the engage is on DRX's side. And if they get Prio with the mid turret already down, they sit on top of this Leona Vi and say, come at me. I've got a Talia to follow up. I've got Satchel Charge to follow up. I've got big burst damage. And you've got a squishy composition that doesn't have a front line, doesn't have strong engage. D+ are in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, and Lucid just hasn't been the proactive player that we've seen him as for quite some time, you know. Hasn't been able to find the angles as Pletter is now going to get handshook back. There's the Arctic Assault. They get the Permafrost onto the Leona there as well, and normally don't engage onto a Leona, and maybe that is still going to be the case here as Showmaker gets into the Shroud, and my god, the damage from the Gnar is massive, but the answer is still going to be there from DRX, from D+. As Teddy, can he land these water balloons? That's the question. The answer is no, doesn't quite have the arm for it. And DRX, it's an even trade, and I think that that's still fine here for the squad.
Yeah, I think so. Rascal's having a bit of a game, though, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
he's having an hour of a time, and that was a really nice play from him. Looked rough for the outset of it with DRX having Pleta get caught here. As I said, they don't have great engage. They still have Handshake. They still have a Sejuani ult, and if you're the Leona walking this far up, you are going to eat all of it, but that's exactly what he wants because he's got Aftershock, he's got Eclipse, he pulls so much of the buttons of D+, and then Rascal just has a field day with his Gnar, with his wall up. Showmaker is able to get in there and grab that kill, which is really important here for the side of D+, but things could have gone a lot worse.
And the setup as well, like we're seeing it right here for DRX. The fact that you put down the rocks, you put down the Hextech minefield, and then you Gnar on top of it, and you've got seismic shoves going everywhere. The amount of things on the ground for DRX is actually just absurd. And some of it sort of working out here as D+ also, the fact that they were able to answer somewhat, definitely positive, especially after putting so many cooldowns into a Leona, which we generally frown upon here in the LCK, or just everywhere.
Yeah, generally not a good idea.
Yeah, generally not. As Lucid is over the Weaver's Wall. Yehu is going to be able to move on in, though. You can see they just want to get towards this soul point. Let's see whether Lucid can get there. And they are able to set it up for the Rent. Great handshake there as well. As Sponge finds himself in no man's land. The snipe is beautiful, and Kellen's Renata, man. Doesn't matter the game state, you can always find an angle. As now Rascal, speaking of angles, is heading towards this mid lane where the Rift Herald has done so much work. This should be another turret. Yeah, it will be.
Yep, there's the satchel. Bye-bye. So still value here for DRX, but you can see how well DRX, or rather D+, it's one of those tough ones, isn't it, where the names are the same letter. How well D+'s composition.
DR plus.
Yeah.
Let's just go with that.
Look at Showmaker's positioning here. Yeah, Pletta's trying to keep him at bay, but it's so awkward for DRX to actually push into D+. They just Weaver's wall D+ away, but it's too early of a wall. And then Sponge is like, I'm going to go in for the smite, and the rest of the team is disengaging, so he's just left out to dry. But Showmaker's positioning so good. The Renata being there for handshake setup. They have the Sejuani. It's really tough for DRX to get in there when D+ actually have that formation. I think the Weaver's Wall was very poorly timed from Yehu as well. That was their opportunity to go in while D+ was split or try to isolate Showmaker with Pletta, but they just couldn't find the angle. And Showmaker, yeah, he didn't get any kills in the fight, but just standing near DRX and threatening that flank was enough.
And aiming now at 2 items. Certainly good news for the Kalista. It's lethality. I'm not a huge fan of lethality right now, but so far has been able to get that Ren down to secure the soul point. Things like that. Certainly some positives to be picked up for the Kalista. It does mean that they don't have a lot of consistent damage in a lot of these fights. It's going to rely on getting that big burst, taking down a single target, and then allowing Showmaker and Kingen to sort of clean up these fights afterwards in the mayhem. Certainly something that these champions can do as barrels come on down. That is a tanky Sejuani, but maybe not tanky enough as the Mega Inferno Bomb comes in. But oh my goodness, the hostile takeover is too powerful. And there's Showmaker with a perfect execution. Not able to quite backflip over the wall though, but still D+ looking for more. Satchel to try and keep Teddy safe. And it will be able to do so for now, but now we're seeing the power of this D+ comp.
Oh, absolutely. And how good of a game Kellen is playing as well. You mentioned it in the draft, how good he is at Renata. His handshakes have been great, but walking into a choke point against the Renata there was definitely a big no-no. DRX do it anyways, and they pay for it. Big win here for D+. Still behind on gold, but they have soul point. The Akali's starting to come online. 5 stacks of Dark Seal for Showmaker. Went indexed into the arm guard as well for extra safety, but doesn't necessarily need it when you're just getting picks here. As Sponge and Pletta trying to clear vision, there's a GP here, he's got the barrel chains up. They go in on this, you know? Not the call, not the play. If Kellen is there, you are just going to be fighting each other. You're not going to be fighting any D+ members. This is just a bit of a mistake. In terms of the call here, Teddy has to flash. Satchel does allow them to retreat in the follow-up here, as you can see, but he also loses flash on his Zig, so that is a rough one for the side of DRX. They had so much control in this game, but it feels like it's now completely washed away.
I mean, it's true, but Teddy couldn't have played that better, because if you flash at a slightly different time, then you take Showmaker over that wall with you, and maybe he picks up 2 extra kills in that moment. Absolutely. Flash timing, absolutely fantastic there. Still, like you say, everything correct. It is still rough times. He just has a lot of money that he might be able to use to win this game later on. We're having a look at the total gold here. He's 1,000 ahead of aiming, but I'm looking in that mid lane. The 1,000 gold lead for Showmaker's Akali, and this is a champion that Showmaker really has had some extraordinary games on, as Lucid just gets the heck out of dodge, sees them, and then Q's over the wall. He wants out of here, as Kingen maybe wanted out of here as well, as he's going to use the oranges. Flash does have the cannon barrage down. They're taking so much damage onto the turret. Kingen takes the first one. Now Rascal's gonna die. It's a double kill for the Gangplank from the grave. Somehow Kellen lands that handshake. I don't know how he does it. Go-Go Gadget hands or something. Oh, figures that one out. But 2 for 1 under that turret for Kingen. That is too good.
I mean, remember the top side dive as well. We have seen some sloppy dives here from DRX onto Kingen. They were able to get the kill on him in the end, but some miscalculation in terms of getting the kill over on that top side play. In this case, really just not respecting the turret's damage here. As Kingen, he has flash, he has oranges, a very difficult target to dive. Sets up his first barrel onto Pletta, drops down the cannon barrage, and walks down here, maintaining enough distance. So Sponge eating way too much turret damage here. Rascal stuck under the turret while he's trying to look for the wall up there. And it's just a disaster here. Great handshake from Kellen. Speaking of...
Yeah, there's another one. Pletta is going to have to flash to get himself out of the way as the barrel not quite in there, as maybe Kingen's overextended. Now for the hostile takeover through the entire choke point. And Rascal can't do it this time. Yeah, who's going to get knocked up? The Ren should be there. The Pierce certainly is. But the Mega Inferno Bomb is massive aggressive, and Teddy picks up a double. Cue the yakety sax. This game is going completely bananas.
It definitely is. At the end of the day, though, Kellen sets up some really big plays there, but the damage of the Ziggs cannot be underestimated. Teddy doing a massive amount with that big ult there, and at least Aiming is able to rend before that ends up being a bigger disaster. As we're not done yet.
I mean, this is Ocean Soul. And Showmaker and Lucid, they really want to be able to take that one down, as they knew the control ward was in there. And Teddy clears that one out, and now D+ just wanting to stay around, get a pick, especially if Sponge is coming over to clear out Vision or something like that. They pick him off, they get a free Ocean Soul. That feels fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the Ocean Soul is really good into Ziggs poke as well. So, I mean, this is quite valuable. Again, I mentioned earlier, it's not the greatest soul, but compositionally actually can be quite nice for them. And they do have Yehu returning here. He didn't have Weaver's Wall, didn't have Teleport, but D+ didn't start this immediately, so he actually has enough time to get over here, rotate in on this Talia. Doesn't have Weaver's Wall to split up D+, though, and they have to walk to the phalanx of barrels.
Yeah, and they've got Cannon Barrage and Glacial Prison, and look at this. There is 0 vision available. This Dragon is going to belong to D+. They will take that one down with the Smite, so there's Ocean Soul. 6 minutes, and we'll have an Elder.
Pletta's gameplay on the Leona in this game has been very much a absorb cooldowns for Sponge to re-engage, but he takes so much damage here, and then again the Renata ultimate comes out. Showmaker's on a great flank angle here. Fate's Call also just ends up being fantastic, but the damage, you know, kind of big. Pretty big Teddy damage there. Everything else though about this was very clean from the side of D+.
The setup of the seismic shove into Mega Inferno Bomb, like that coordination from Teddy and Yehu was really, really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it in the draft. It's super simple, DRX's comp, and I think when you're an East Side team, that's usually the game plan. That's what we like to see. That's what we champion here at the LCK. On the global side is, look, it might not be as meta, but play it and make it simple. This is very meta and simple. D+ have a bit of a weirder take on the draft, but they're still very explosive. Feels like we're seeing maybe a stronger draft overall, a simpler draft for DRX, but D+'s execution is so much better this game that they've taken what was a big deficit into now a pretty large lead. Yes, they're behind on gold, but they have the Ocean Soul. They have this scaling GP who's got the opportunity finished. His barrels do so much damage, as we saw in those last few exchanges. Showmaker is well and truly, you know, rolling down the hill in terms of his snowballing on this Akali. Was quite quiet in the early game, but now is a big threat. And when you set up the barrel chains and the Renata ultimate on these Dragons, Barons, and what maybe we'll see an Elder fight in the next 4.5 minutes here, it's really hard for DRX to get in there. So map control and pushing waves with the Ziggs is so paramount to them being able to set up fights on their terms. The Weaver's Wall they didn't have in that last fight either. So a lot of tools down. Now they have them. See if they can maybe start up a Baron. They're grouped towards the top side of the map.
And you've got Showmaker on the bottom side, does have his teleport up and available. He's just getting this wave pushed in. You can see only one turret taken, just that bottom outer for D+. Is now they're getting Teddy's flash in the mid lane. That is very valuable. I think you will certainly trade a Glacial Prison for that one.
Definitely. It is one of their biggest engage tools, but with how Kellen's been playing, I guess you don't care about the Sejuani ult.
Yeah, maybe.
That Handshake's a better ult. And now, just like that, D+ get control of the Baron. They had no control there. They didn't have the turret, and they're able to clear out vision here. Yes, D+ will lose control immediately afterwards, but they're in the vicinity as Leto.
Yeah, Solar Flare just going to be walked out of. Just chose the right direction there, did Kellen. Very nicely done. So Pleta is going to lose a Solar Flare to Narnia. That's okay. Just sometimes you got to fish, and these non-committal ultimates, like the Solar Flare and the Glacial Prison, you can just try and go for opportunistic plays, especially with the amount of opportunities that have been purchased here.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Kingen having one, he's like, don't you mind aiming? I think it's a good item.
I love the Axiom arc follow-up here as well, where he's just like, Kellen's the real carry. Let's just put him in that ult as much as possible.
It works. Kellen's been having a great game. Is now Lucid, possibly overextended. Not going to quite find it here with the Vault Breaker. Did Sponge as the barrels not landing onto Rascal there, but he still has to get out. He's not as tanky as he needs to be if he wants to be taking these barrels.
With TP, I mean, he can just keep pushing here.
Rascal might just be dead. Kellen's coming through, and he really wants to shake his hand. There's the flash, Cannon Barrage. Not really doing anything. I don't know whether that was a button that needed to be pressed. You've still got some resets coming in, and like you were saying, Showmaker just being a nuisance in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I mean, he's just putting the pressure on bottom side here. D+, not quite able to catch the Gnar. They haven't really taken that many turrets off of the map, so it's a little bit tough to actually set that one up there, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, though, you could see the power of D+ just sitting in his chokes.
That really hurts. All right, Trial by Fire needs to come through for that big damage, and aiming just says it doesn't need to be there. Hostile takeover, and Rascal, he flashed before. He doesn't have it available now, as Kellen will be punished. But that is a 2-for-1, and yeah, Teddy might be fed, but they're just not fighting where he can do anything about it.
Yeah, he's fighting in chokes only, Pleto.
Oh, okay, Showmaker diving on in. That is the entire kitchen sink down on top of Showmaker, but he'll go into his shroud, and he might just be okay. The backflip over the wall, the Arctic Assault to do the same thing as Kingen. He is still looming in the brush, but doesn't find the barrel chain there to take down Pleta. So they do lose their jungler, but I think with Kellen going down, D+ don't feel like they can do the Baron.
No, I don't think so. And, you know, they still get huge wins, though, out of these types of plays. There's no vision. Look at the bomb coming out from Teddy as well. They have no vision, so he ults the Baron, assuming they're on it. That's how clueless DRX were in this moment. Spawn has to come in and check. He's looking to maybe go in there and hope for a steal, but then he's just caught out. As you can see, Teddy is doing massive amounts of damage, which is in part why they couldn't end up doing the Baron, even though he used his ult. I guess they didn't have vision of that. It's over here.
Rascal teleported to the bottom lane.
That's not it.
Oh no, that means he's definitely not going to be here for this fight. Let's see whether Teddy can get a Mega Inferno Bomb over. He does have it available. And he is in range, but this is just dead. It's just gone. Went down to 83, but it doesn't seem to matter because there was no one in the pit. D+ have got everything.
Now they can just use the Baron to set up for Elder. Do it again. And man, what a rough call for Rascal to TP bottom at a pivotal moment. I mean, they were so grouped to try to deny the Baron moments before, and maybe the idea there was a split call on a team. He just wants to push out bottom to try to contest Elder, but ends up being a disaster because they try to come over there anyways, come up with nothing. Now Teddy's ult is on cooldown. Elder spawns in 15. He will get the ult back up in the longer fight here, but D+ complete control.
And Rascal does have a Gnar in a decent position, and I guess you could argue that Elder is more important, and it absolutely is, as now Pleta with the Eclipse is able to tank up a few of these barrels. The 3-man to come through, and now the Cannon Barrage on top of it. Teddy's the target, but he is able to get himself out of there with that Seraph shield. Showmaker's looking for him, though, and there's a 5-point strike. And now the perfect execution. This should be the cleanup for D+. And there is no response from DRX, and I think D+ might just try and push through.
Very clean fights for D+ in the latter half of the game, just playing the map better. DRX had a huge lead, lost all the dragons though, couldn't contest, couldn't break through the barrels as Rascal.
Oh, yeah. I don't think Rascal's going to be surviving this one. Oh, maybe he is, because D+ are distracted by the base.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit more interested in killing the Nexus than killing the Yordle there, as Kellen's going to stop his backs as well. He can't even get home.
Just shaking his hand over and over again. He will get gnawed into the wall and likely loses this 1v1, but maybe the base will die first as Pleta's being ignored at the same time. There is the death for Kellen as Mega Inferno Bomb comes on through, but it is 2 turrets and a dead Leona, and then the Nexus goes down. D+ pick up the win in the end.
You know, it wasn't the cleanest start, and it was a risky draft, but man, the objective control for D+ was fantastic, and also just straight up an amazing game from Kellen. There was so much, I had so much hope for DRX with the lead they had, the control they were showing on the map, how they were avoiding those fights, Rascal's laning phase. We got out of the lane, he had some good Gnar moments as well, but some disastrous dives, and that bottom dive especially really just put the wind out of the sails for DRX, and then they could not break in to those dragons. They lost all their momentum. And D+, unique drafting style here in this one. I wasn't the hugest fan of the Akali, but Showmaker, he got Teddy in the end in that last fight. It was the only one who could do it, and D+ just win in their own way.
And I think when it's Showmaker, you trust him, right? Like, there are certain players that when they lock in Kassadin, you're like, ugh. But with Showmaker, you're like, oh, okay, I see the angle here. Maybe it's like, you know, the final in 2020 or 2021, you know? The Akali, very similar thing. He can pick it at any moment. I'm like, if he's feeling it,
look at these
then he's going to win.
numbers.
The damage numbers aren't necessarily there. They are for Kingen, though. And he had like 100% kill contribution for a whole lot of that game. He was the focus from DRX, and they got punished for it over and over again.
It was such a great start with how they were punishing him, but then they went a little bit too heavy on it.
Yeah. And I don't know who you're voting for POG. I think Kellen, phenomenal game. Kingen, phenomenal game. But it's a toss-up between those two. We'll see who takes it. Short break time, then it's going to be the space. Then we'll have game 2. We'll see you there.
들어갈게.
끝났어 무조건.
나 철거 아낄게.
끝났어.
나는 집 들어갈게. 나 피가 너무 없어.
끝났어. 되게.
나 피 채우고 있을게.
야 웨이브.
나 죽어도 되지?
죽어도 돼.
나를 여기 있어.
나를
철거
다-
아래 거 터뜨릴게.
어.
무시하고 타워 쳐야 돼,
쳐야 돼.
바로.
잡아도 돼. 여유 있어. 잡지 않다.
타워. 다 나온다. 그냥 타워 해줘.
Have to come in and not too far. Don't reset too far, right? Like, I don't want Rascal going back to spring. I want him to stay about where he was in the early game of the last game and then play with the team for the rest of it. Don't teleport bottom lane when you've just been having a tussle around the Baron pit, okay? That's all we need to do. As DRX going to change things up a little bit here by not banning Tristana and instead banning Kalista. And will that mean that a Renekton does sneak through and a Tristana is banned on red side? I would very much hope so, because Tristana is just a little bit too strong, in my opinion.
Yeah, a little bit strong. I don't think they'll let them have it. But there's a lot of discussion.
Yeah,
about
maybe the other school of thought is ban the Renekton, they pick Tristana, and then you get Talia Vi, and then you have Talia Vi on Lucid Showmaker, which feels all right.
I think that's definitely the game plan. That's definitely what's going through their minds right now, and I do think that is just what we're going to see. I mean, that's not that anything else wouldn't make sense, but it just feels like the best scenario for Lucid playing Vi, and that's been a recipe for success for the last 2 years. Instead,
I mean, you can just go Vi, right, and then pick Talia on 3 if you would like to.
True.
Because Tristana is already locked in, so I do like the Vi lock-in.
Definitely very strong here. The Gnar also really weakens the Cassante pick quite heavily, and I think that's part of why we're seeing it picked so much right now, is it's just so good at pushing lanes, wins a lot of matchups kind of by default because he's ranged, so it's a very safe pick. You know, back in 2021, we saw it blinded a ton, kind of like Gragas we saw last year too. And let's see what the response is going to be here for DRX. Going to push the Ezreal up in Prio here and just grab Ezreal Leona. So this is a great rotation here for DRX because it gives you one of the strongest lanes in the game, as well as great scaling. Double 80 carry here. Means you're going to lose some of the AP jungle picks you might have wanted to run for Sponge here in this one. I think Maokai really coming to mind, considering how much Sponge loves to play that champion. The Talia is pretty given. I guess Showmaker's like, can I play Ahri? The coach staff would tell him no, and we're just going to lock it in.
Yeah, like, can I just play LeBlanc instead? Because that'd be way more fun. But instead, he's going to play the champion that is extraordinarily powerful, can set up for those seismic shoves. And we saw Yehu actually had a great time, especially in the early stages, landed quite a few really pivotal shoves in a lot of these fights. As there's that Maokai ban, like you were talking about, alluding to, and I think that Sponge is probably going to be facing a couple of bans on the side of D+.
Yeah, it's just so good into Vi. It's AP with the double 80 carry comp they have set up, so that one is the super obvious one. This is not really a setup where you want to be running something like a Karthus. I don't think he's really all too interested in playing Brand, for example. We'll see what that final ban is going to be. Might not even be a jungle ban. They might put their focus on the top side. Something like a Camille makes sense, given Rascal's history and the matchup into the Gnar.
Oh, true.
So might just see that banned again.
Zyra also still very strong. And like you say, looking for an AP jungle. And so might be one of those options. And there is the ban.
Okay, so taking that one away instead. I think this is completely reasonable. One of the best picks with the Ezreal Leona to dive whatever bottom lane comes through. Banning the Rakan kind of weakens, you know, a lot of different lanes that you could play defensively down there. I don't think they were going to run Xayah into this. They have the Vi on their side, but definitely
I want
weakens that.
Caitlyn. That's what I want.
I mean, I think it's reasonable in this position. Kalista is banned this time around, so Aiming won't be able to try to push the Ezreal in that way. We haven't seen Varus. It's not really played in EWC either, except in a weird top scenario against a Rumble. And it's just going to be Kellen's Renata. He's like, it's really good into Leona when he keeps walking towards my choke points.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Might just be Draven Renata.
Could be Draven. Could still be the Caitlyn if they would like to play that lane. Still works out relatively well. As Rascal going to fight fire with fire here, and by that I mean never mind. Sejuani made it all the way through because they were focusing on the AP junglers. It's going to mean a lot of physical damage is coming in here. And of course, not a lot of tanks necessarily on the side of D+, so I don't think that there's a whole lot of room to punish. But let's see what Aiming's going to lock in here.
It would be super weird if he just runs, you know, I mean, Caitlyn is strong here. Lucian is not even that bad of a choice. But Aphelios is going to be the answer. It's not bad by any means, but it is definitely outranged by Ezreal, and there's a lot of threats to get on top of this pig. And my biggest weird thing about this draft for D+ is that the draft feels in some ways very disjointed. You have the Vi Talia, then you have the Renata disengage into the Jax. Sejuani feels okay, but it's double AD carry. The draft is both trying to go in really hard, but also trying to kind of walk away at the same time. And you have the Gnar that can kind of tie it all together. I think it was good Gnar play from Kingen, is famous for his Gnar, that this composition will work. He's got a great front line, and the engage of the Vi can be enough of a front line for the Aphelios. But it feels like it's kind of in its own isolation, kind of like a B-tier draft, in that it doesn't fully index into either of its components, whereas on the side of DRX, you have a draft that is very classic, double AD carry, scaling, and it's got great engage as well. So when you take the nameplates off here, I give the edge to DRX.
I would too. I think that individual matchups across the map do favor D+ in isolation. I think that that's something that they've definitely managed to tick off, but unfortunately, sometimes you leave with a whole bunch of good matchups and then you have this higgledy-piggledy composition that doesn't necessarily have a true identity. They do have a lot of pick, and they do have a lot more early game pressure in this particular draft. So we'll just have to see whether they can play towards that and see how active Lucid's going to be on his very famous Vi. Like, this is this guy's champion. See what he can do with it as we jump onto the Rift for game number 2.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
I'm so glad that we got to see some health bar there. We can see that the structures in the base for D+ are actually healthy. So that is certainly good to know as Aiming avoids the first Mystic shot.
You know, one pick we didn't talk about that I think DRX definitely could have played with this draft is the Ivern. And they
Oh yeah, that would have been cool.
The Sejuani instead, as
they were playing the Jax though, so I guess you'd have to put a tank in that.
Yeah, they would.
Leona would kind of work, I guess.
They didn't necessarily have to, you know, play the Jax as well, but they wanted to more heavily go into, you know, kind of follow up. The Sejuani synergy with Jax is really strong, so definitely as a duo, and that makes sense. The Aphelios, interestingly enough, I feel like is less all-in than going something like a Draven. Does have a lot of late-game scaling components and will rip through the Leona's health bar. So if DRX just play the same way, where they just put Fleta into the brush, they're walking into choke points, and they have no map control, even though they had, you know, for example, in Game 1, they had a ton of turrets down, but just couldn't actually get control of the neutrals, then the Aphelios will just blast the Leona if she does walk into a handshake. And we talked about how it's kind of a disengage pick, the Renata, but if you play it like Kellen and you're great at hitting these handshakes every time, it can actually be a great engage component. It can be very punishing for that Leona, even the Sejuani as well. So the Aphelios I do like for that, is breaking that tank that walks into the brush first. would have been stronger than something like a Lucian.
Yeah, and I think Lucian Renata is not exactly
It's
a lane
not-
that I'd ever want to see, so I think it's fine to step away from it. Yeah, they're like, I don't know. I feel like I'm underwhelmed just because the most recent time we saw the Aphelios, Pace played it at EWC, and I just wasn't all that inspired. So I'm a little bit worried about how it is going to end up.
Yeah, it's quite weird. Just as its own pick, like in this draft, and it feels like a very aiming move, right? And that's
Yeah.
the only reason why I mentioned the Lucian, because it's pretty terrible with Renata, but he just likes to pick these sometimes.
Ooh, flash out of the seismic shove here, as Showmaker does take a fair bit of damage back, but didn't have to use his flash in that instance. Sponge in the area, and so Showmaker could be punished once again with his low health bar, but like we mentioned, didn't have to use the flash.
Yeah, still feeling pretty good with that one up and available. Like Sponge is just going to be able to clear this Raptor camp and then get out of here. We'll interact with Lucid a little bit.
Yeah, he's charging up the Vault Breaker. We're having a look towards his bottom side as Pleto down to 50%. He's looking to go for a few engages, but you can see level 3 hit by D+, with a lot of pressure in the lane. As Lucid, I think, knows that Sponge is somewhat in the area. Arctic Assault not going to quite land here as Lucid looking to get away. Permafrost not going to quite get in there. Yahoo was out of lane. That's why Lucid's playing with so much respect.
Really huge that doesn't hit us.
Whoa, that's a very long-range Zenith Blade. Great handshake to try and get them away from aiming. As Teddy chasing after Kellen here momentarily. That is still cleansed down on the side of aiming.
Yeah, that's a really big get here for Teddy and Pleta, as it's so easy to combo the Leona and the Ezreal. A lot of Ezreal's power is budgeted into, you know, just landing Qs, but when you hit the stuns, it's guaranteed, and his damage starts to ramp up in those longer trades. So very powerful. If the Aphelios doesn't have cleanse, then if he gets caught by one of those, he is going to be in big trouble and may even be forced to flash. So see if Pleta can find another miracle angle like he did with that previous Zenith Blade. As we do have Lucid rotating towards the bottom side of the map as well. Might be trying to set up a dive here. Pleta going to make that very difficult. It is an Ezreal Leona lane.
Yeah,
He's level 3.
Amy and Kellen are keeping them low as well, as we can see. Teddy does have a biscuit as Lucid's making his way in. There's the Eclipse. Great handshake and first blood onto Teddy, and I don't think they're done just yet. They're going to try and set up for this kill here as Aiming's the one that picks up the aggro. He'll get away from the turret, though, as the teleport does come on through. Aiming just walks it off, and that is a plate going down in the meantime as well.
That is a very clean handshake setup, as Yahoo doesn't have flash, isn't going to be able to get his way out of this one, but I don't think he cares too much about it, but that's a great trade for Showmaker. But I was looking at it going, okay, well, it's going to be really tough for Vi to engage on this. It's Renata, it's not really an engaged support. Well, watch Kellen do this. Actually, maximum range, incredible handshake there, pushing him right into Pleta, and then it's just an easy follow-up from here. Aiming is full health, does not care about the turret aggro, and that's a teleport from Teddy back to lane. Expecting this matchup to be a little bit more focused on him, so at least he has that summoner to get back to lane real quick. Only picks up a tier off of that, whereas Aiming is going to grab Greaves, who assists.
That's huge. Aiming also more than halfway through that cleanse cooldown like we were talking about before. No flashes invested on the side of DRX. I would have suggested that it would have been a good idea to use some of them, but after that handshake, I mean, Teddy, there was nothing he could do after that. Needed to flash that initially.
Teddy was like, he doesn't hit those. Nobody hit, but Kellen's like, I hit those.
Yeah, he does. He does hit those, and I'm personally looking forward to the conversation with just Kellen by himself after this game. As I'm already writing it down.
He just hits another one.
Yeah, that's what he does. Man shakes hands. He is just extraordinarily polite. That's what we know.
He's you know, we've seen so much Renata when it's just an anti-dive setup. We've seen so much Renata when it's Renata plus Kalista, you know, Renata plus another champion that does really well with all-ins like the Draven. Kellen's making a case for Renata to be played with any scaling AD carry, it doesn't matter, with how well he's hitting these handshakes, and pretty insane performance back-to-back by this man. The game's not over by any means, but it's a huge gold lead here now for D+, and pushing this Vi further in the lead means that Sponge is going to have a really bad time if he does encounter him in the jungle, as D+ is going to get the first dragon, and unlike the last game, it's a Chemtech to start.
Ooh, might mean a little bit more of a spicy one. It is 3 grubs going over to a Tristana composition, which I think you should always pay attention to. But if D+ can continue the momentum here, it could be a real worry, as Kellen just walks towards Splitter. and they're going to trade blows and nothing too much is going to happen. Big wave stacking up here. As we can see, the Vi getting to work on the Drake. They will have full information as the Dragon's going to yell when it dies. Sponge is on a ward here as well, so his position given away at the same time. There's the buffer from Yahoo this time around. But Showmaker is really controlling this lane, as we can see, keeping Yahoo busy.
Lucid's level 6 as well. Sponge just going to lose his red buff here. Nothing he can do. There's no control on the bottom side of the map here for DRX, as if he actually tried to come over and smite that one away, it would have been the end of him. There's no way Teddy can help out in that situation. Now he's going to take the Raptors away, just being super frustrating while also threatening this Tristana at the same time. And this is the Lucid on Vi that he's famed for this pick. Ends up helping that bottom dive to great success, and now he is reaping the reward because, yes, it was a Kellen setup there, but he's the one who picks up 2 kills. And unfortunately for Sponge, not much he can do. Just knowing that experience advantage he has and just pushing it forward so much with the bottom side control.
That flash was so weird, but it worked so well! Okay, Kellen! Okay, Kellen!
He's just giggling, man. He's having a bit of a giggle. He's like, I dodge those.
I can even the Korean casters are losing their minds. They're having a giggle as well. It's everyone. We're just all giggling together, as now Kellen might actually be in trouble, but he has a turret. He's going to be fine. And Amy's going to walk back. He's like, what happened? Kellen's like, I don't want to talk about it, but everything's fine.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's a mind game, sure, yeah.
It was so sick. This worked so well. All right, Showmaker is going to get explosively charged. As Kellen continues to soak skill shots, it is going to be absolutely fine. Spots out Pleta here in the brush as aiming spins around. Red and white.
Red, white, level 6 for Kellen, too. You got to respect that.
Oh, yeah. Level 7 for Teddy, but Pleta really wants to get Solar Flare on that skill bar. And shouldn't be too far away from it.
This is so frustrating for Pleta because he really wants it. He's so close to it, but with Renata in the brush there, not a great spot. This is Kellen's first-person view.
Oh, 씨.
Okay.
I don't think I need to translate.
Yeah, no translation necessary for that one. That was a little bit of a whoopsie into I'm a god, it's fine.
Yeah, I think just reactionary flash there out of him while his mouse cursor was not in the closer to the turret position, but the flash still is the reaction time there so quick that he's able to get out of dodge, avoid the Zenith Blade,
and then gets like a really nice handshake because otherwise he would have been dead.
Yep.
Oh, very cute. Anyway, I'm really glad that he was laughing as much as we were as that play was happening. And let's do a bit of a check-in. So it's about 2,000 gold the lead for D+. A lot of that coming from this bottom lane, as you were talking about. Those 2 kills going over to Lucid, of course, as now Kellen finds himself in a very uncomfortable spot, which is called the Death Chamber.
Yeah, that's it's a Sejuani over there.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to write off that one, unfortunately.
No, I don't think so.
I think we're just going to have to go, well, you know, you win some, you die sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you're doing your taxes and you're like, can I expense it? And the real answer is no, no matter how hard you try to explain it away.
Yeah.
It's just not going to quite work. I felt like the analogy made sense, but maybe my brain is just not functioning. As King
now
pushes a wave in, and Lucid looking for another dive.
Yeah, there is a teleport on this Ezreal they want to punish, but it looks like he's holding it for a little bit.
Yeah, Showmaker throwing some rocks around here as in comes Lucid. There's the cease and desist. And Sponge is in a real rough spot. There's the flash forward. The threaded volley comes down. Yahoo is in position, though. Showmaker does get the kill, but goes down immediately afterwards. And Rascal, with the teleport in, is going to make sure that there's nothing else to be gained, as Lucid is on a merry jaunt through the enemy jungle, and he will take the disengage cone. Shout outs to Valdez, and he will be out scot-free.
I mean, the game state at that moment on the bottom lane, and this is going to be the really big cost, because you talked about the Void Grubs, you always have to keep an eye on that with Tristana. Now they're not going to get the 5 or 6 that is really what you want as Tristana, so unfortunate here for DRX, but you know, the game state on the bottom side of the map was so favored to D+ that they were like, well, if Teddy's not going to show up, Lucid says, I'm going to kill somebody. And he went in and forced it, and unfortunately for him, you know, it didn't end up working out. It took a little bit too long, so the Tristana does pick up a kill out of it as well. And this is some plate gold going over to aiming as Rascal, because he TP'd bottom, just having to babysit this lane for a little bit. Tristana is dueling top side. We'll be able to back off here. He loses a little bit of farm. Teddy's getting some free plate gold over here meanwhile. But yeah, definitely could have gone better there for D+, but at the end of the day, I think they're pretty happy with the scenario. They still have a lot of control as Showmaker comes in.
Yep, looking for Teddy now as well as he's on these rocks. Can Arcane shift out of them, but I don't think it's going to matter. He is going to go the other direction, tries to throw down as many abilities as possible, but Lucid says Vault Breaker. And Teddy is going to be lying on the floor. So DK now moving that lead further forward. Drake has just spawned as well. Got Chemtech into Ocean. It's going to be a Cloud Soul, isn't it?
It probably is.
What time to be alive is okay. Sponge is going to be spotted. Pletter is also spotted. Kingen still just going to continue jungling as the Nah. And that will be the top outer turret taken here, I believe. A little bit of a race here. And oftentimes you just say, yeah, Tristana's probably going to win.
Yeah,
especially with Rascal turning up bottom lane.
Yeah, especially with nobody showing up here.
Ooh, it's a Mountain Soul.
It is Mountain Soul, okay. As Yehu will just push this wave in. Fortunately, Leona shadowing this means it's very difficult to defend as D+. Kellen does come over. As Lucid is so big in this game. He's 1,000 gold ahead of his opposition, has 3 kills on this buy. As Rascal, I mean, we haven't talked about Jack's side laning all too much. Hasn't been that relevant recently, but he is going to also be doing a lot of damage to turret. But with him being pushed away here now, that is the end of that. But DRX getting a lot of turret value in both top and bottom lanes here, picking up a lot of plate gold. Still behind overall in gold with D+'s great kills in the early game, but bringing it back.
Yep, and they've also got like some standing gold sitting on the map here as well. You can see that that next couple of plates are going to be very, very close, as of course only 15 seconds until the plates do fall, so not likely to be able to get any extra plate money, but the setup for first turret blood is certainly there for DRX to get themselves back into this game and on gold parity at least.
And the lane assignment here ends up working out really well for DRX with the Jax into the Taliyah, and then the Tristana dealing with the Gnar topside. Actually feels pretty good here for DRX at the moment. D+ going to have to try to remedy this, but see, it's Lucid going topside. He's going to say no more Tristana.
Ooh, Teddy. In a little bit of trouble, but Rift Herald is going to be on the minds of D+. Showmaker moving up there, does have Weaver's Wall at the ready, so he can be there at a moment's notice. Sponge and Yahoo just going to be taking down this blue buff. And I think that Shelly should just go over to D+ here without too much of a response from DRX outside of Rascal going for a shove in that bottom lane. Teleport's available for Showmaker. I don't know whether they really want to use it here to take to protect this turret that is...
It's Dunzo.
Yeah, it's really basically just standing there already dead. So it is going to be removed, and DRX going to be able to claim that first turret blood like we were talking about. So that is going to cut the gold lead to under 1,000.
-1.
Definitely good for them.
Yeah. -1, a bit of a -1 there, but it's...
I think, thankfully, I was ignoring that particular -1.
Yeah.
Some are more egregious than others.
That one was a little tricky. That was not a egregious one. As Yahoo is going to be able to catch this wave here, they have Sponge in the area, just making sure he can get this back. He won't get the turret right now, but like you mentioned, it's basically a dead turret standing. They don't walk, but it's basically a pile of rubble that looks like it's standing up.
Yep.
It will go down. It's his gold whenever he wants to cash it out. That's definitely a lot of money he's going to be picking up on this Tristana that's nearing 2 items. And this next dragon is in 2 minutes time, so we're going to have 2 more minutes of posturing and some vision control fights. But the fact that they were able to get that bottom turret is really good for DRX, as Rascal can always threaten flanks, can always be a bit of a nuisance over there on the bottom side, and that means the waves are always going to have to be dealt with. So they will finally swap the Tristana, or rather the Taliyah back into the Tristana lane here. Yahoo going to try to push this in, has not his TP yet, but will have it, of course, for the dragon, so he's constantly going to be threatening that second turret. As Teddy is also scaling up.
Yep. Very close to that 2 item that we often talk about for the Ezreal. So Muramana almost done. Sponge going to be spotted here. There's a wallop. Gnar into the wall there at the same time as Vault Breaker comes on in. Rascal, relatively tanky though, and so is Showmaker seems to be completely fine. Rascal continues to be toyed with here underneath the turret, and there's the hop, skip, and a jump. And there is a dead Jax under the turret. Meanwhile, I mean, there's sort of fights happening everywhere as the teleport immediately towards this mid lane And Showmaker's going to turn up. Should be able to help take down this outer turret. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, same thing's going to be happening here as Rift Herald was dropped and now is getting escorted by Kingin. Turret goes down on the top side, but can they actually save Kellen as a seismic shove? Oh, the handshake actually kind of wrecks Showmaker there, but it does not matter at all. Pleta is still real dead, and Teddy just had to watch.
I think Pleta played that extremely well. Kingin's going to get this turret,
Oh,
so
man.
even though Tristana is pushing top, this is a much bigger win for D+ overall. You can see Kingin pulls ahead of Yehu's gold for just a moment. He is not going to be able to get that turret. He's backing, in fact, set up a control ward, and he was like, still a little bit suspect to continue on this. And Showmaker does the walking strat. It's the big trend, and if that hits, this is a completely different story. And then down here, we didn't quite see what happened after this play, so to see, looks like Rascal just tries to clear the wave, and it's just autos that take him out. After his counter-strike is down, he has no reason to flash here because there is just no way out of this one. Auto attacks actually targeted, no way to dodge those. As Pleta over here, I think, plays this about as well as he could and almost is able to give Teddy the opportunity to take out aiming, but unfortunately there's just not enough damage on this Ezreal just yet.
Ooh, a little bit of lying in wait happening here. Pleta does show himself. Yehu and Sponge both in the area as Kellen's just looking for him, not able to find that handshake there as they do clear out the vision. And D+ looking for another soul point. That would be complete monopoly of the Dragons so far this game. They are looking to start this one up. Sponge, can he actually get himself in there? They're going to go for a contest as the teleport is coming in from Teddy. Sponge gets into the back of the pit. And D+, I don't think they're looking to flip this. I think they would prefer to go for a fight. They give up on the Drake. They say, all right, if you want to teleport for it, maybe you can have it, or maybe we'll just go for another bit of a setup here. You can take the aggro, and then we'll look to fight you.
Switches his guns. Now he's ready for the fight. We'll have his ultimate coming back online in just a moment as well. I think that was a key part of this for D+. Don't want to fight without optimal setup for the Aphelios. Now he's got it.
Yeah. Oh, man, there is so much vision control here as well. Showmaker can cut off this fight at a moment's notice at the same time as there's the attempted escape from Lucid. He does manage to flash away and then not able to get in for the smite. So that's going to be the first Drake for DRX. Can they get themselves out of here, though? That's the question as Kingin chasing after Sponge. Cease and desist. He goes so incredibly far, but Yehu still not able to keep himself alive. The handshake to save Lucid. He also had the bailout as the hostile takeover just barely not enough, but the double knockback on the Vault Breaker is decent. Rascal still able to take down Lucid, but I think it's still a big win for D+. And Kellen once again chasing after Rascal. What is this? This is personal beef between these two players.
Starting to feel like it, but I think it's more of a story of DRX losing objective fights and Rascal being the last man standing. He is going to be able to get the execute, it looks like here. Kellen can't catch up with him, so he's going to get it. Down he goes. Oh, so close.
Yeah, that was really close.
But yeah, I mean, this fight is really split up here for DRX. So yeah, they do end up getting the dragon, but look at Showmaker's angle here. Yeah. He's constantly threatening. It's so fantastic. He can keep Rascal at bay, but also threaten the re-engage. And then when we see the ultimate here come through from Lucid, it looks like he's made a judgment error. But when you see the rest of DRX, not really. Let's look at Teddy. He's so far away, Rascal can't follow up either. Showmaker just kept him at bay. He's got the wall angle here. And it's just a great set of plays from Showmaker. And then the follow-up, obviously here, heroic play from Rascal to get 600 gold. I mean, definitely worth for his flash there, I'd say, given the scenario. Will buy a bunch of time, gets out with the execute. That's all great, but the Taliyah power, you could really feel it in that moment. And Lucid, he trusted that his mid laner was going to keep the rest of them off, and maybe he dies there, but it's still worth. But they had so much peel for him at the end of the day. It was the right call, and if Yehu lives, if Yehu's actually able to put that damage back, maybe it's a completely different scenario. Loved how decisive D+ was in that moment.
I agree, and I think we're really getting a look at a team that has, one of the greatest Vi players in the LCK and one of the best Taliyahs, and seeing just how well they can work together in a few of these fights. Showmaker just playing bouncer, keeping Rascal out, and then able to go in for the assassination. Really nicely done. It's not necessarily classic Vi Taliyah, it's just Lucid's really good at Vi and Showmaker's really good at Taliyah, and it's kind of working, even if it's not necessarily the true tandem that we do often see. So DRX, let's see whether they can answer it as they are falling further and further behind. It is very close to a 4,000 gold lead in favor of a D+, and in fact, it is basically there.
Yeah, we just crested it, and You can see, I mean, the Tristana is on 2 items, got the Flicker Blade Spike, but, you know, with no objective up for the next 2 minutes, I mean, Baron is definitely not something you could do at this point or threaten as DRX. They're going to control vision and force D+ to respond, but I think starting this is a bridge too far, and I think D+ also know we don't need to force a face check here. We can just kind of slowly pick away at the vision. There's no way they're going to start that. That would just mean certain death. Yep. D+ with just a really good read here now, slowly clearing this away. They call the bluff. DRX back off. And D+ could just sit around and scale, basically, until this next fight. And LDR second, I think a great choice for aiming Kellen.
Kellen face checks once again. This is the second time it happens as he's just going to get out. Okay, we'll take the Buster Shot taxi. And it does do a fair bit of damage, but it gets you to your location. True Shot Barrage! Kellen's like not even close. He's having a game.
He's just luckier than them.
Yeah, I know. I know.
He's just like, I don't care about anything. I don't need my summoner spells. I don't need my health bar.
Yeah. Saw him like rubbing his chest there a little bit, like maybe it's getting towards heart attack, but he's got his Warmogs now. He should be okay.
So I forgot if I had my Warmogs, I would have been right back up at full health. I wouldn't have needed the back, but grab those now does cost D+ a little bit of control around this pit. How aggressively he was playing that.
Well, I think D+ have an idea of the fact that there are extra DRX members up here towards the top side. And DRX also have the idea that their idea was known, and so they vacate.
Yes.
So we're not going to have too much. Kingen backing here towards the bottom side, pushes yet another wave towards Rascal, and I think this is about the time where you want the Jacks to really be in that side lane getting stuff done. They've got double Zeeks.
Yeah.
Not sure about that, but it's cool.
It is, it's very Zeeky.
It is Zeeky.
I don't think it's great, but I mean the item has good stats for Jax, so it's okay. He hasn't been able to put really a ton of pressure on in the side lane because D+ have so much control over the map. But even when they were given he was given a long leash to maybe go out there and do something, the lane was pushed all the way to where his inner used to be, and so now he's trying to get it to the midway point. Kingen shows up, and there's just no angle for him to actually push, as D+ have just been so confident that DRX are not going to try to sneak a Baron under their eyes. Okay.
All right, there's Cease and Desist onto Teddy. Does Arcane Shift, but they fall into the seismic shove. Oh, Kellen! Okay, he's just the main character. That's what I've realized. He's just the main character of this series. That's how it is.
Insane! That was just insane!
And the last time it happened, he pulled him out of the seismic shove. This time he's like, oh no, don't worry, Showmaker, I got you.
I just want Kellen to go win Worlds now and give us like a lasso skin for Renata.
Oh, heck yeah.
Give me that lasso, because he is just roping him in over and over again. As DRX get the second consolation drink, maybe. Kingen has something to say about it.
Yeah, he's able to throw a bunch of rocks in here. It's okay, they do get the dragon. Over the wall now, but Showmaker looking for a little bit. Seismic shove. Has to flash to get himself out of the way, but look at these health bars. They're going down so quickly. And Pleta, he's going to have to be the sacrificial Leona. Lucid going to be able to take him down. They've got the Baron now, though. They're looking to push, and now with a man advantage, they should be able to take down quite a few of these turrets.
They certainly should. Not a Tristana on their side, but they do have those 3 grubs. They're able to even it out. The turrets are going to go down so quick here. If D+ gets some additional time with them, that top outer is still up, and it looks like that's where they're going to put their focus initially here, then try to stack these waves up. The dragon take here for DRX, though, it was a little bit dicey, but they do get it. If they can actually grab another one and potentially start to threaten Soul and live long enough, this Ezreal is going to be a huge problem. The Jax is going to use those stats so well. Let's watch Kellen here.
go.
My God.
That was beautiful.
He is just so good at this champion. Kingen a little bit late to actually really impact this. They commit the teleport as well, because if they end up coming just a little bit faster or DRX are a little bit slower here, they get the wipe and the game is just over. And they still end up getting a big win. Over here.
We got another little battle happening here, or maybe it's a big battle as Cease and Desist goes so far. It's once again the Tristana falling down, though, and on the other side, the Vi is going to get rid of the Ezreal. No more damage remains. And even though they managed to get the little dragon, DRX not going to be able to find too much more. Lucid also not too worried about this whole situation as Showmaker, cool guys don't look at explosions and doesn't watch while his jungler takes down the support. Rascal once again is just wandering elsewhere on the map because he's just not welcome in his own base right now.
He could have just gone back, but wanted to try to stop them from taking that turret out. But it's a Baron buff. He's alone. commits a teleport, gets nothing out of it, so just -1 teleport for your side laning Jax. I mean, this game is practically over, but that would have been a nice tool for another objective, you know, in the future. He's not going to have it here. 3 minutes until the next Dragon. Maybe he'll be able to get back into a side lane, but I just don't think it's that kind of game. I don't think that that's about as far as the Jax could go as where he was when he TP's in.
Oh, this was Kingen doing the thing that Kellen did before.
Yeah,
and it works really well.
It's the good old, I'm out of position, I promise. It's totally, I'm totally making a mistake. And no,
it's I'm face checking T-Heat. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, a little bit of a face check T-Heat. But the D+ turned a double 80 carry comp into a 0-80 carry comp real quick.
That's not great. The 0-80 carry comps, we don't like those, especially when you only have 3 people on the map. As we found Rascal in a side lane, he is going to be able to get the counter-strike onto Lucid. That's going to give him an avenue out of there, but had to invest the flash in order to do so. And these inhibitors, they weren't taken in that play. We haven't got a Baron buff anymore, and of course, turret's often very effective in dissuading teams with without Baron from getting into the base. Now, it is more about a fight for D+, because there's no turret to fall back to here for DRX.
Yeah, DRX, you know, this game state, it's not 100% over. Tristana just hit 3 items. Rascal is a level 16 Jax that, you know, again, given some time, may actually be a threat on the opposite side of the map of this next Dragon.
Oh, he's got double fidget spinner though.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
We're really doubling up.
So there's one inside the Trinity Force, as you can see.
Are we gonna get the?
Wait, it's triple. He's got like sort of like triple threat, different. It's like Beyblades. He's only collecting Beyblades.
I thought you were just referring to the fact that Yehu's got one and he's got one. We've got the double.
No. All of Jax's items.
Yeah, no. I mean the Zeke's
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, I understand the build now.
All right, well, sell me on the Doran's Blade being a fidget spinner.
No, he needs to get rid of that. You just need the Doran's Blade to open the fidget spinner packets, you know, because they can be tricky to get into. It's like tough plastic. I think that's basically what it's there for. And you need shoes to be able to walk to the store to get yourself your Beyblades.
I think that DRX, they have certainly shown they know how to play their composition. Their drafts in Game 1 and Game 2 have been pretty robust. I like them a lot. It is really struggling to play the map correctly and making some really rough calls around the map. Like, their early macro has been fantastic. It's just been the later parts where they made some big whoopsies. And have really struggled. I think that's going to be the takeaway for me if DRX end up falling 0-2 here, which is looking very likely at this moment in time with a 10,000 gold deficit. But, you know, there's one more chance. There's one more miracle fight they could potentially take with a 3-item Tristana. You know, maybe a Jax teleporting in, getting a big counter-strike. He doesn't have TP now, so they're going to have to try to force their way in.
Well, this is, I mean, if they do manage to get this mountain, then maybe that makes up for maybe 4,000 of the gold lead.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But Kingen pushing in a side lane really does make this an uphill battle.
They got
to say the least.
They got a back here, Lucid.
Yeah, and look, like, DK are like, yes, you can have a 3rd Mountain Drake. We will take your Nexus. And how do you feel about that trade? Is now Kingen going to get jumped on here as he just crushes away from the Solar Flare? There's the Weavers all trying to get the stragglers, and he'll find 2 as that's just not going to work there, Rascal. Unfortunately, the counter-strike doesn't work, and aiming is going to be out of pounds. Hostile takeover is gorgeous once again for Kellen. And D+, they're like the Harlem Globetrotters now. They are just walking all over DRX. And I think that this one, it's been over for a while, but I think it's well and truly over now.
It's definitely done now. DRX, a valiant attempt, but D+, gonna go up to 6-1.
And now we completely understand why the first pick buy came in 9-1-7 for Lucid. Absolutely phenomenal performance. Everybody else augmenting this composition gorgeously on D+'s side. And that's a clean 2-0, nothing to see.
Very great performance from the jungler of D+, and Kellen playing back-to-back Renata games look fantastic. Kingen, good performance on both the GP and then the Gnar in the second game where he was putting side lane threat up. It was actually setting up a lot of team fights very well. And, you know, D+, it feels like a lot of the time when Zeri's not banned, aiming is the main character. I feel like he was the least, arguably the least impactful member in both games. And to see this side of D+ as well, where they're not reliant on aiming's late game carry, where he's taking all the money, that's a completely different side. And that's a good sign. That shows there's extra layers to this roster that's now 6-1, fighting for second place just behind Gen G. And D+ is a team to be forced to be feared, a force to be reckoned with here, and I'm here for it because it's been a while.
I agree. And you brought up at the beginning the fan sign that said, we want 2020 Dom 1 back. You know, we want to get some of those vibes. That's what the gameplay was today. Today was not about aiming at all. He didn't exist. It was about Kellen getting in amongst it with his solo laners that just dominated this game. And maybe it is, you know, like, maybe Kingen can be a bit of that
it was
Nuggery
crazy.
action.
Like, there was Kingen was Nuggery.
Yeah.
Okay, Lucid was Canyon-esque.
Kellen was super
Definitely
barrel,
dude. Yeah, he 100% was. I think
not now barrel. I'm talking back then barrel.
I think Showmaker was a little 2021 Showmaker action as well today.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was looking back, and yeah, 100% aiming was Ghost in this example. So, you know what? It does feel like we're going back in a time machine, and if you're a Dom 1 fan from back then, a D+ fan now.
Yeah, that is no shade. No shade whatsoever.
It's the timeline to live in. It's the place you want to be. I mean, I didn't vote for him this time because there was some whoopsies, and everyone had a great game. I think it's going to be a split vote, but you can't deny.
I would have, but I mean, Lucid was pretty good this time around, and he had a great game one as well. So I think you're okay. I assume that's where.
Yeah, I did go Lucid. I did. I think last game I wasn't on the Lucid hype train. This game definitely the case. As man, Showmaker in this moment too, his positioning so fantastic. You love to see when D+ actually gets these fights done, because this last season and a lot of last year, it would be these leads for D+, then they mess up this fight, and it's completely disjointed, and you go, D+, like you were so close to greatness, and you can see the evolution here is definitely real. Like, this is a much stronger team than they were in spring season.
Oh, 100%. And it feels like they're a step ahead. I mean, this was a team that was sort of, I don't know, desperate to try and find plays at other times throughout spring, and especially throughout last year when it was a slightly different roster, of course. But it feels like they've just got their ducks in a row. It feels like this squad has finally found the same page, and it looks beautiful.
It really, really does. And I mean, I think people are not really, I feel like, kind of realizing their defeat of Kwangdong was really big. Like, Kwangdong is actually such a strong team right now. That was kind of the big warning sign, I think, that this team is going to be great this season, and they might finish the first round robin in second place, depending on what happens with T1. But
Atlas's Preds, they're aging better than we thought.
Yeah, they
might have. Although it's still a little
at least
bit of
that
a
part of it.
Yeah, that bit's doing okay. The bro in ninth is still a bit of a worry, but that's enough on that. Teddy did a bunch of damage, but Showmaker did that little bit more, and D+ just in general doing so much work, and it's just good to see them having a good time, finding these great performances. Unfortunate for DRX, I think they can look back at game number 1, which was a whole lot better than this game number 2, which was kind of just D+ rolling over the top.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes, unfortunately, for DRX, but I think that game 1, hold on to it. Run back the tape. I think both drafts were good. Both game plans were good. The execution, we've got to level that up. But at least I think DRX is looking better week to week, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, it certainly is. D+, huge congratulations to them, though. I think I still would have voted for Kellen, but maybe because I'm a weirdo and I like that he just seemed like the main character today. And as an underspoken man like he is, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But now it's time for us to throw it over to the space for them to break down this series.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the POG interview translation, joined by Kellen and Lucid on the side of D+ Kia, who just secured their 4th consecutive victory after defeating DRX. Congratulations! Thank you. Kellen, this is your first POG. How do you feel?
POG를 언제 받을까 생각했었는데 오늘 POG 받아가지고 너무
I always
좋고,
thought about when I will actually get
많이
POG.
받아보도록
Feels great to get a POG, and I would like to continue getting POGs in the future.
만족하긴 하는데
Were you
몇 번
satisfied
것도
with your
있어가지고
performance?
살짝 아쉬운
Yeah,
약간
I'm
그런
pretty
느낌인 것 같습니다.
content, but I got picked off a couple times, so I do have a little bit of regrets here and there. Lucid, you won your 4th series in a row and reached 600 POG points. How do you feel? It's nice to have such a good momentum as a team, and yeah, I'm a sole position of the first place of the POG standings, which makes me pretty happy. And it looks like, despite the week of break, D+ Kia's performance is still top-notch. So what did you do during the break?
준비하면서
I hung out with some friends, and then I definitely had a lot of talk with the coaching staff regarding the match versus DRX and Genji. And what about Lucid? I tried to recover and rest as much as I could, and in a good condition, I was able to pull off a good performance today. And in Game 1, Gangplank made an appearance after 335 days in the LCK. So how does that team feel about this pick? Yeah, we saw the Gangplank against Snar, and we knew that Kingen is just so good at playing Gangplank, so I think we were just all pushing him and encouraging him to play. Kellen, in both games 1 and 2, you took Renata and showcased a great gameplay. So what is the key point when playing against Leona? You have to actually snowball in the laning phase as a Renata, and I think it all just really played out well for us. And so by playing with Kalista and Aphelios, what did you try to do differently in games 1 and 2? I feel like Aphelios just felt a little unstable, but aiming did really well, so I think everything went pretty good. And in both games 1 and 2, we saw both teams blind pick Vi. In the current meta, do you consider Vi as top tier? I personally do believe that she is top tier, and I thought that our opponent would ban her. But since it was open, I just went ahead and played her. And Lucid, with your Vi, you had such a flashy engage. So let's take a look at this next replay. So you rushed in so fearlessly. Can you walk us through this moment? So Sejuani and Leona ult were the only engages that the opponents had. And I think I was able to just sort of waste their ults really well, and our team's follow-up was really on point. And Kellen, you had such an amazing highlight with your Renata as well, so let's take a look at the highlight. So here, what reflex was this? You know, I've never actually pulled this off. And I've always been scolded by my coaching staff, and I actually thought that Ezreal had his E, but thankfully he didn't, and it actually worked out really well. And it looks like Lucid's Vi and Kellen's Renata are your signature picks. Kellen, how would you rate Lucid's Vi? Of course, Lucid's Vi is 100 points out of 100. So now, Lucid, how would you rate Kellen's Renata? Kellen's really good at using his ult, and he's also really good at drags and hooks and engages, so I would say 100 out of 100. D plus Kia is on a great momentum. That is a long message from the fan sign. So, how long would you like your win streak to last? Maybe about another 200. And this upcoming Saturday showdown you have against Genji, you have so much to show. You saw you saw Showmaker declare war in the last interview, right? Yeah, this is my impression. And Lucid, what is your resolution? We'll be sure to prepare for our match against Genji and show you guys everything. That's no fun. Lucid, do it again. I will do it again later. Check it out on Lucid's SNS. And that's the end of the interview from Kellen and Lucid, and back to the space. Thank you.